President Trump just moments ago saying that past U.S. administrations were played by North Korea like a fiddle, that won't happen to this administration. How optimistic are you about the Kim-President Trump summit?
Well, I think we all pray for peace, and we all pray for denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and, quite frankly, of the world itself, an end to nuclear arms, the races that are going on. But this is a much bigger picture than that, than simply the Korean Peninsula. But I certainly welcome, this is good news in terms of what the South Korean government has been engaged in with the North Korean government, and we all hope for peace and reconciliation on that peninsula.
President Trump just a couple of days ago complimented Kim Jong-un as very honorable so far on his tweet. That while the State Department released an annual human rights report talking about North Korea violating human rights. So is the president being too optimistic that this summit will yield results, especially with such a regime?
I don't know if the word optimism really applies to the president. He lives in his own world, and he lives by tweet. One day he calls him a disaster, he calls him names, and then a few weeks later he calls him honorable. That's because the president really doesn't have a full scope or understanding of the world politic of today. So look, at the end of the day, we all hope that there is reconciliation, that there is peace, but not without oversight, not without reform within North Korea as well. Having this event take place is important, and coming into South Korea for the first time. But we're a long ways away from denuclearization or full peace, and I hope for the best.
Well, Congressman, if the president really doesn't have a firm understanding, how worried are you about his going into a summit with Kim Jong-un in this situation? And what constructive role could the Congress play in supporting him or advising him, as it were, in those negotiations?
I think it's important that we ramp up our State Department again. We have eviscerated the State Department over the last year and a half. I think that needs to be addressed by Mr. Pompeo as the new Secretary in the State Department, Secretary of State. I think also we have to hope that nothing will happen. Words cannot hurt anyone. That this is a successful summit. We hope for the best for our country, for the people of Korea, as well as the people of the world. We have to also remember that the Chinese have a role to play here, as do other world powers as well, and other countries in the region. So it's not just about the United States and our history with North Korea, or South Korea's history with North Korea. It's a much bigger world out there than simply that.
I want to turn now to the midterm elections coming up in November. You play an important role in the leadership of the Democrats over on the House side. As you look at that, what role will foreign relations as opposed to domestic issues such as the tax cuts play in those elections across the country?
Well, I think that all politics is local. I don't want to dismiss the international issue. That is something of concern, of broad concerns for all Americans, and we all hope for peace and reconciliation in the world. We know that may be unachievable in our lifetimes, but it's something we work towards. I do think, though, when it comes to elections, it is about the economy, it's about local economy, it's going to be about Social Security and Medicare. It's going to be about the tax scam that passed here and the effect that it will have on middle class. This is really an attempt to cut, as I see it, Social Security and Medicare for the future and the entitlements. That's what the Republicans' goal is, and that's what Democrats will be fighting against.
How much of it has to do with leadership? Because there's a lot of discontent with leader Nancy Pelosi. Will that be a major issue?
Look, I said before, I think the Republicans are bankrupt when it comes to ideas, and because they go back to their old playbook and attack Nancy Pelosi. I don't think that's going to work anymore. It's already fading. It's not as effective as it once was for them. I think the American people are onto it. They want real solutions for real problems. They want to know how they can afford to pay for college in the future. They want to know how they can afford to pay for health care because of the effects of this tax bill are going to increase premiums by at least 10%. They want to know what we're doing to inspire the creation of jobs in America, especially middle America. And that's what Democrats are talking about, and that's why we know we're going to be successful in November.
Congressman, every well-run company across the country has a succession plan for their CEO and their senior leadership. Does the Democratic Party have a succession plan for Nancy Pelosi, and are you part of it?
Listen, I think that everyone tries to bring what works in corporate America to government. We always hear how government has to run more like a corporation or more like a business. And to some aspects, that's true. But listen, we have very wise men and women in our caucus. They know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. And we'll deal with those issues after the election. What we're focused on right now is winning back the House of Representatives. We need oversight here in Washington. There's no oversight of this administration. It's completely abandoned by the Republican Party in the House and in the Senate. And that's why Democrats need to win back the House of Representatives first.
So as I understand what you just said, you're not ruling yourself in or out?
What I'm saying is that I am focused on winning back the House of Representatives, as is Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn, myself, Linda Sanchez, and the entire leadership team. We know what's at stake. It's not about Joe Crowley or about any of us. It's about the American people. And if we don't win back the House of Representatives, it'll be a very dire day, I believe, in our country. That's why it's critical we win back the House of Representatives.